Afternoon and welcome to the February edition of the Staff Wellness and Health Booster Sessions. Our topic today is Mindfulness, Compassion, and Spiritual Health in Work and in Life with Andrew Terhawk. My name is Chad Saxon. I'm the Communications Coordinator with the Addictions Foundation of Manitoba, and I'll be your moderator for today. We'll get to Andrew in a few seconds, but we have some housekeeping items first. As we all know, COVID-19 has challenged health system workers to change how we conduct ourselves in the workplace, our homes, and our social connections. These changes can sometimes feel overwhelming. To support health system workers and the public, Shared Health and our Psychological Health and Safety Committee partners have brought together skilled trainers from across the province to facilitate several staff booster sessions. As noted, our presentation today will touch on the importance of mindfulness, compassion, and spiritual health in our work and life. We know our help to alleviate suffering draws us into our work in health and human service. When the suffering we work with becomes overwhelming, we suffer. We can lose the balance between meaning in our work and happiness in life. We will discuss how mindfulness and compassion can support us, not to eliminate our suffering, but strengthen us because we are suffering. We'll share in mindfulness practice to honor our everyday experience and create a toolbox to nurture our day-to-day spiritual health. As I mentioned, our presenter today is Andrew Terhawk. Andrew is part of the Roseau Compassion Network as the spiritual health practitioner for the Saint Amant community. In his daily work, he supports people of all ages, cultures, and backgrounds to nurture the values and practices that are most meaningful in their lives. Andrew began learning about meditation 30 years ago as a daily practice and support for anxiety. He explores and practices spirituality, mindfulness, and compassion each day through new and traditional teachings. Following the completion of Andrew's presentation, we'll see if there's a few minutes for questions. I know he has a bit of a guided exercise we're going to go through, so we'll check and see if there's time for questions at the end. Also, today's session is being recorded and will be made available as a streaming video on demand on the Shared Health COVID-19 Mental Health Resources page. And with that, I will turn things over to Andrew.
Thank you very much, Chad, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm grateful you've taken the time to join me today for this presentation, for this sharing. This session is being delivered on Treaty 1 land, the traditional gathering place of the Anishinaabe Cree, Oji Cree, the Dakota and the Dene people, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. Each time we pause to acknowledge this, we acknowledge the truths. We are called to consider what the truths of our past and our present mean to us. We are called to acknowledge the harms of the past and the present. And each time we do this, we are called to reflect on what we can do, each one of us, to honor these truths and to make Manitoba a better place for everyone who lives here. In health and human service, the place where mindfulness, compassion, and spiritual health intersect is the heart. Your hearts are ever impacted by your experiences, your losses, and your joys. To serve in human service, we must touch into the way we feel, to know what we are experiencing, to be mindful of our spirits and what is needed within us and around us. And so with that, I invite you to pause, to rest your whole self. We can take a moment to adjust our posture in our chair, create some comfort and ease for ourselves. If you like, you can rest your eyes for a moment and allow yourself to take a couple of full, slow, calm breaths. Feeling the sensation of breathing in and feeling the sensation of the body breathing out. With these breaths, we're invited to notice how our minds are, how our hearts feel, perhaps busy or full. This is common, this is human. So you're invited to let your mind, if it is busy, let it rest for this half hour together. If your heart is full, we'll hold it with some intention together today. For this is what we do best in health and human service, is hold the heart. And I'd like to invite you to rest your eyes, if you'd like, for a moment. Open your ears and I'm going to share these words with you by Jeff Foster. This is entitled, How to Open Your Heart. How to open your heart. Do not try to open your heart. That would be a subtle movement of aggression towards your immediate embodied experience. Never tell a closed heart to open. It will shut more tightly to protect itself, feeling your resistance and disapproval. A heart unfurls only when the conditions are right. Your demand for openness invites closure. This is the supreme intelligence of the heart. Instead, bow to the heart in its current state. If it is closed, let it be closed. Sanctify the closure. Make it safe, even safe to feel unsafe. Trust that when the heart is ready, and not a moment before, it will open, like a flower in the warmth of the sun. There is no rush for the heart. Trust the opening and the closing too, the expansion and contraction. This is the heart's way of breathing. Safe, unsafe, safe, unsafe. The beautiful fragility of being human, and all held in the most perfect love. I invite you to take another calm breath in and out and just savor how you feel right in this moment. As Chad mentioned, we have a full half hour to get together today, and so we hopefully will get to sharing some resources at the end, but today we will celebrate our common experience of human suffering to explore how mindfulness and compassion relate to our spiritual health. To highlight the value of spiritual health within holism, to see practices available in our daily living, to share in a meditation to care for ourselves and our families, and to share in resources, as I mentioned. Pardon me, I'm just having a bit of difficulty advancing my slide for you. There we go. So for the context of today's discussion, I'd like to define spiritual health in one way. In the Saint Amant community, we define spiritual health as a person's ability to make meaning in life, to come to an understanding of our sense of self, and to appreciate the need for and the ways we value our connections with others. To make meaning in life, to understand ourselves, and to understand the ways we value our connections with others. For today's discussion, we note that spirituality or spiritual health and religion can be interconnected but are not always the same. As such, spiritual health may be nurtured by values in faith, but spirituality, a spiritual experience, or our spiritual health is not always rooted in faith or in religious tradition. We all have positive spiritual health, this we know. We have it when we feel most alive in living, when we feel open-hearted in experiences and in relationship. When we have places where we belong and feel connected to a strength outside of ourselves, and when we can maintain a loving, connected presence in the face of suffering within us and around us. As health and human service providers, frontline, behind the scenes, and everywhere we exist in between, we all have chosen the work of human service. Some quality in our heart, some common quality in our heart, and common quality in our spirits of who we are as individuals guide us in this choice. This is the part of ourselves that suffers when we become overwhelmed in life and work, and in what has become a long pandemic filled with suffering and health and human service. We have all borne a weight greater than we have imagined. We've all experienced many losses in the past 2 years, losses in valued roles, in lifestyles, in our connections, important rituals, gatherings, and in other health-affirming life experiences. Amidst all this, over the past 2 years, we have witnessed the tragic discoveries of graves on former residential school sites throughout our nation. We have experienced and witnessed large-scale environmental and climate disasters. And we have witnessed social and political conflict at home and around the globe. And we have also each continued in our own private challenges amidst the lives we live. And so we have felt this weight of what is spiritual distress within ourselves and empathically in the lives of everyone around us. Dr. Christina Pawlowski defines spiritual health as the impaired ability to experience and integrate meaning and purpose in life through connections with self, other, art, music, literature, nature, and our power greater than oneself. And in this time, we've also been disconnected from we've been disconnected from our life experiences. We've also been disconnected from the spaces in which we meet people, the spaces which nourish our spirits and keep us well, from our temples and yoga studios, coffee shops, office break rooms, rec rooms, and dining room tables. These are the places that in their absence or in their change, our spiritual health has also suffered. And on top of this, for the calling we all have to these professions, the important human service spaces in which we've always found purpose, made meaning, and explored our best selves, these spaces too have changed. Mark Nepo writes that if peace comes from seeing the whole, then misery stems from losing perspective. And so what do we do with this awareness as our lives have changed? How do we gain or regain our perspective on our sense of self, on meaning in life, our work, and the strength that we have always found in our human service relationships? We are called to create new ways of seeing our whole selves again, to see our goodness, our values, our confidence, and our gifts, these gifts that we have for long held dear in human service. In times of suffering, the path to those qualities arising requires us to hold our vulnerability with courage. We are called to be aware of our distress, our fatigue, our thoughts, and our emotions with openness and judgment. This we must do to know ourselves amidst what is. This is an awareness. This is a mindful practice for our spiritual selves. We know the benefits of mindfulness. We know the ways that it increases our awareness for our experience, but more deeply our inner experience for our body, our sensations, and our physiological responses, our whole selves. Mindfulness allows us to see our thoughts and feelings as we experience them in relation to our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health. This creates a confidence alongside our vulnerability. As we see our experiences more clearly, we are able to choose to respond versus react in moment-to-moment experiences. This allows us to see our environment and our interactions more clearly with openness. And in the most difficult times in life, in the face of deep suffering, mindfulness creates the potential for equanimity to arise in our hearts and in our minds, for discernment to be more available to us, and for intention, our deepest intentions, to arise in a healthy way. When I think of mindfulness practices in the way that I've explored them in my life, the way that they've been taught to me in a whole variety of ways, I think of them in responsive in their quality, restorative in their quality. They arise in my daily work and living, and for myself, a formal meditation practice. In responsive practices, as we know, we often talk about the breath. In previous Shared Health Booster sessions, we have practiced this together. The breath is always with us, a physical and thoughtful anchor in a moment of difficulty. We can interrupt the physiology of a difficult moment with a single breath. In what I refer to here as restorative practices, we dedicate a short time to practice mindfulness, dedicated time to focus our awareness on the present moment. We can reset or recover from part of our day, or plan for or transition to the next part of our day. This helps us build resistance. Examples of these practices would be found in the extensive Shared Health Be Well Moments collection posted to YouTube. And in daily work and living, which I'll speak to in a moment, these practices are available to us every day, and they're both responsive and restorative. and formal mindfulness meditation, which many may know about, as we understand that is a spiritual practice in which we grow in our awareness for our whole life, our whole selves. We see our minds, our bodies, our hearts with curiosity and openness so that we can live with acceptance as fully as possible with our entire life. As I mentioned, mindfulness in daily living and working is an important part of our practice for in these moments of care and support that we encounter each day, whether in direct support and care or in behind the scenes engagement and interactions with colleagues. These moments of connection are integral to our human service and good human service. As we look at these images, we see values, we see relationships, we see compassion, collaboration, connectedness. We see presence, we see support, respect, independence, vitality. We see focus, we see safety, and we see trust. When these moments do not unfold as we hope they will, or that when our best self is unable to be present for these small moments, our spirit suffers because we deeply respect the importance of the small details of our service. There's a note here at the bottom of this slide, 24 mindful moments in toothbrushing. This phrase arose out of a practice and a program we created in the St. Amant community. I won't explore it too much today, but it summarizes how attention to small details can drastically change the way we are received by the person across from us in our moments of support and care. And that extends far beyond our support for someone in their toothbrushing routine. These slides will be made available afterwards, and there's a link there to a radio program that I had the privilege to participate in that talks about these moments of deep importance where attention and awareness can make all the difference in the world. In daily living, these moments are available to us as well. The way we drink our tea can be a practice. The way we walk through a room can be a practice. The way we drive our car can be a practice. Placing our awareness fully on the way we bake or cook a meal can be a restorative and a resilience building practice. For when we place our awareness anywhere on one thing, the breath, our experience, the way we hold a hand, or the way we support someone in brushing their teeth, when we listen deeply to a colleague, when we support someone to change their position in bed. These are all opportunities to grow in our mindful awareness. So we need not always sit on a cushion and meditate for an hour. These practices are available to us always. And even in moments of suffering and moments of overwhelm, when we are rushed, we can still connect with the person across from us and say, this is going to feel rushed. This time I have is not enough, not as much as I would like to have with you. And in doing this, in honoring this truth in our experience, we are saying to them, I'm sorry, this is not going to feel as best it could. And we are saying to our own selves and our own hearts, that human service heart within us, that this is difficult to not do this work in the way that we would like to honor it. In these moments when we create this space, we resist those feelings of this moment is not what I want it to be. And when we do that, we create some space to breathe. And these are the spaces in which compassion in new ways can arise. We know compassion by definition to be the experience of suffering with, to be with another who is suffering and offering ourselves and our presence to them. It takes practice to sustain, we know this, but it can be a life-giving, resilience-building practice with ourselves and with others. This quote from the article, How Important is Compassion in Healthcare? Caregivers with the deepest compassion with patients' pain most acutely, caregivers with the deepest compassion feel their patients' pain most acutely, but they also have the most joyous and satisfying practice. This we know well, though there have been many barriers to this awareness and this experience during the pandemic. When we are witness to suffering with a clear view, the joy of our service lives and thrives within us. But when we suffer ongoing or extensive empathic resonance to the suffering of others or in our own suffering as well, we struggle to skillfully practice compassion. And we know this can lead to empathy fatigue and to burnout. In overwhelm, we tend to isolate ourselves. This is our common human experience. We numb to the suffering within us and around us. This is a protection mechanism. But we know we cannot selectively numb. And as such, in overwhelm, we become cut off from life-giving joys that nurture our heart, our compassionate presence, and our wisdom just the same. Stress and distress are common responses, feelings with immense empathic resonance and spiritual distress. Mindfulness supports us to know what these moments are more deeply, to know how we are responding to ourselves and others, how we are feeling when our experiences are unfolding as they unfold. And as such, we can begin to titrate those emotions more skillfully. Practices that nurture our capacity for compassion and self-compassion reaffirm this human service heart that we all have. And in that, affirm our sense of self, allow us to find our way to what will allow us to make meaning, even in a changed time. Allow our hearts to open safely or reopen again, so we may be mindful of how we are receiving others and how they are receiving us. And this presence, this is our compassionate presence that becomes so valuable in the ways that we work. One of the practices that has been profoundly valuable for me in my work for about the last 8 years is mindful self-compassion. It has been talked about as well in previous booster sessions. The 3 principles below the title, self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness, are the principles on which we build this practice. There is research and references located on the final slide if you'd like to read more about this. But what we know about this practice is it is both loving and fierce. It widens our emotional awareness, fosters equanimity in relationships, nurtures motivation, accountability, long-term healthy choices, and increases our capacity for compassion with others. We do know, the evidence shows us clearly, that in the absence of self-compassion, we suffer in our ability to show up for others, not to any fault of our own, simply because the demands on ourself have been overwhelming. And when our self suffers, our connections to others suffers. Our connections to others suffer as well. Combined, a mindful and compassionate presence provide us both with the awareness to see what is and a skillful response, a tool to respond. Mindfulness is that awareness, and compassion is our skillful response. Combined, they are a presence. This is a presence that can be felt, and it is something that we teach ourselves, that we can learn together. Michael Yellowbird, in his work in exploring Indigenous views and mindfulness, wrote that compassion is something you learn. It can be taught and has to be integrated into not only your neural networks, but also your behavior and biology. In his studies, Michael Yellowbird deeply explores the degrees of mindfulness that we learn to practice. And he understands deeply that mindfulness can be, as I mentioned earlier, a practice that can help us reset in a moment to recover in a moment of suffering. But when we go deeper into mindfulness practice, deeper into compassion practices, we begin to reshape how we relate to suffering, how we see the suffering of our past and our present moment. And in that way, we can begin to change how we think and feel about those experiences. We can begin to change the way we think and feel about our sense of self. And we can begin to change the way we respond in those moments of suffering. Just this morning, I was standing at the bathroom sink, and I realized I was scrubbing my face vigorously. My mind was lost in thoughts, active in some worries about the morning and some responsibilities I was unsure about. My heart, I could feel, was racing. And so I took a breath. I took a breath and acknowledged that worry, that heart racing, was coming from my intention and desire to want to do good work and to hope that I could show up in a way that was meaningful. So I took a breath. I tended to my face in a different way, with rhythm, intention, and care, just for a minute. And I continued to breathe with ease and intention. This simple practice allowed me to remind myself that I am doing my best, and that my best self is my most present self, that I would do my very best today. My heart and my thoughts settled. I entered my next moment, a phone call, with ease and optimism, with curiosity and acceptance for how it would unfold. In this way, I became aware of my heart, my body, my mind. I know I have these thoughts of self-judgment. We all do. This is common. Each time I practice, I regain perspective and strengthen my view. I know where those judgments come from. I am learning about that in my practice. As they arise less and less, as those judgments arrive less and less, I feel my practice working. This is our commitment to our deep sense of self and our desire to want to make meaning in the ways that are most important to us in the world. We know that we do not practice with the Spirit to make suffering go away. We do not meditate, reflect, pray, paint, sculpt, sing, do yoga, write, drink tea, breathe, or enter nature to make our suffering go. We practice in these ways because we are suffering. So in moments of suffering, when we lose touch with our practices of meaning, the cycle of suffering can become overwhelming. And so we must practice to honor ourselves for our human need for connectedness and for the spirit of our health and human service. This is what we do when we tend to our own heart in the way that is most meaningful for us, the ways that allow our spirit to feel alive and well. And so with this, I am going to lead us in a short practice. This is not a, this is a practice in mindfulness compassion. This practice is designed to allow gratitude to arise in our hearts. This is a practice, as I'll mention afterwards, can be modified to share with families, with kids. I'll also provide a recorded version of this practice in the slides, which will be distributed in the days ahead. And there'll be some instructions there on how we can modify this for sharing with those around us, in particular, young ones. So I invite you to find a comfortable position in your seat. You can rest your eyes if you like. As we share in a few minutes of taking care of our hearts, for this is at the core of our path forward. Offer yourself a calm, full breath in. If you like, you can rest your eyes, rest your hands in your lap, and as you breathe out, feel your body settle into the chair, into your seat. Adjust your posture, let your feet adjust and rest comfortably on the floor beneath you. Feel the support of the chair, of the earth beneath you, and offer yourself one more calm, full breath in. If you like, you can place a hand on your heart or both hands on your heart to remind yourself of your intention to bring a caring, supportive, and affectionate awareness to yourself in this time of care, of self-care and practice. Maybe feel for a moment the rhythm of breath in your chest, rising and falling. And invite yourself to just follow this guided practice as best you can. Allow your mind to rest and your heart to rest. I invite you now to imagine yourself in a comfortable space, a place that is safe and peaceful for you. It might be a calm room in your home, a garden, a favorite path, a forest, a beach. One place that you know well that is comforting for you. Begin to visualize that place. Let yourself linger and enjoy the feeling of being in that space. Look around and notice the qualities in that space that are comforting for you, that allow you to rest, allow you to feel whole and full. And as you imagine yourself in this space, as you feel this space around you, soon you will receive a visitor into your space. This is a warm and compassionate friend. A figure who for you embodies the qualities of wisdom, strength, unconditional love, friendship. This may be a spiritual figure for you, or a wise and loving grandparent, a compassionate teacher, someone who fully embodies the qualities of love and wisdom, someone from your past or present. Allow yourself to picture them in your space, in your peaceful space. Allow yourself to picture their presence. As you breathe calmly with ease, allow a smile of gratitude to come to the corners of your mouth as you savor the presence of this important being. And with them there before you, you have a choice to go out from where you are or invite them in. Take this opportunity to get a little closer. Perhaps notice that they are smiling back at you. Place yourself in just the right way with your compassionate visitor, perhaps seated next to them, holding their hand, or standing at a respectful distance, whatever feels right. Allow yourself to feel what it's like to be in the company of this being. Just soak in how it feels to be present with them, with their gifts, their wisdom, their love. This compassionate friend is wise and all-knowing, and they know exactly where you are in your life's journey right now. And this friend may wish to tell you something that is exactly what you need to hear today. Some words or a single word, perhaps. A reminder of their wisdom, their care, their compassion, and their love for you. Take a moment to listen carefully to what words this good friend may have to say. And if no words come, that's okay too. Just continue to experience the good company of their presence. This in itself is a blessing to be able to savor in this moment of rest, the blessing of this friend and all the qualities they represent to you. Perhaps you'd like to say something in return to your friend silently in your heart. We know that your friend listens deeply, and so because they completely understand you, what would you like to express to them? Perhaps love or gratitude, or simply a smile and warmth for holding those qualities that they hold and for being exactly who they are in your life. And as you let go of those words now, for just a moment longer, savor the presence of this time resting together in the good company of this friend and all of the qualities shared. And as you do, as you enjoy this feeling of warmth and compassion, these conditions of ease and rest and love, remember that everything you are experiencing, the words, the feelings, these flow from your inner wisdom. This is your compassion at work. This is your heart coming alive. These gifts are the gifts that have been nurtured in you. And once again, as you acknowledge these gifts in yourself, allow a small smile of gratitude to come to the corners of your mouth. Gratitude for your friend, for the wisdom they have gifted you. And also gratitude for these gifts that you hold always, even in difficult times. These gifts are there. Gratitude for this time of taking care. And with a calm, easy breath in and that smile at the corners of our mouth, we can release the practice, breathe out, and gently and slowly open our eyes as we return to this circle of colleagues and friends. This practice for me has always been an important one. My first time doing it, my grandmother came to visit in my meditation. It's both a formal and an informal practice in that it's formal in that we are practicing mindfulness. We are asking ourselves to place our awareness in a particular way on purpose. This is a visualization. This is a deep importance and value of visualization. In this practice, though, we also are practicing with compassion and gratitude because of the content of the words shared. It is designed to engender these feelings of love within us, these qualities that we hold so dear in our roles and life and in work as loved ones and as health and human service professionals. I'm going to have Chad pull up a short video. This video entitled, it's a mindfulness video. It's narrated by Sharon Salzberg, and it invites us to, I'll just have you rewind that there, Chad. It invites us to hold our whole experience, our whole self deeply. In meditation, we will meet suffering, we will meet difficult moments, we will awaken joy. Our awareness for ourselves is, as I said earlier, what creates the space for us to respond with intention and presence. I'll let you play that now, Chad. Don't hear the sound, Chad. Yeah, there's no sound there, Chad.
You said there's no sound? Okay. Sorry,
No,
I'm not
no.
sure. Not sure why that would be.
Okay, well, we can, yeah, we were having some technical difficulties earlier, so I apologize. We'll be sure to include that link in the in the slides. I have a couple of videos that I'll be sure to include that are shine a light both on our practice and on our the ways that our practice lands in the world. And so we'll distribute those slides in the days ahead. So coming back to ourselves in our human service roles with good spiritual health, when we tend to our hearts, we tend to our spiritual health. This increases our capacity to remain grounded and present in our intentions, to maintain our compassionate presence, which is, as we know, integral to all of the work that we do, the environments that we create, especially in the most difficult times. And in the face of suffering, these practices allow us to conserve our energy. And they do nurture holism and our wellness and allow us to remain ever mindful of struggles and our ability to respond skillfully with practice, of course. In Buddhist tradition, this presence of being or equanimity is the foundation for wisdom and the freedom and the protector of compassion and love. This way that we nurture spiritual health as part of our holism is rooted in our heart. When we do this in intentional ways, when we touch into our values, the ways that we do make meaning in life and in work, it can create moments of ease, moments of relief for us in the most challenging times. A reminder that our values and our ways of making meaning are still close to us. Provides us with a window into our sense of self, that we are still here, our whole self is still here. And that begins to impact other areas of our health as well. And with acceptance in this way for what is, for the conditions with which we live in that we cannot change in this day, we can still live with this intention, with a fierce intention to fight for the things that we believe in after this moment comes to a close, when the opportunity arises for us to do so. This is the gift of our presence. Richard Wagamese and Elders, his book of Ojibwe Meditations, says, "There is such a powerful eloquence in silence. True genius is knowing when to say nothing, to allow the experience, the moment itself, to carry the message, to say what needs to be said. Words are less important, less effective than feeling. When you sit in perfect silence with someone, you truly know how to communicate." This is the power of our presence, not only in silence, but in our conversations as well, in the ways that we share words, in the tone, in our posture. These are ways we can tend to our presence that are definitely felt by those around us. Amidst protocols, environment changes, pressures, shortcomings of our circumstances, when we tend to this presence, we honor the values that we all share, the heart that we all share in human service. It's a beautiful story I'll touch on briefly. This is a few years ago. This young boy was in hospital, Concordia Hospital, for an extended hospital stay. This young man has autism. It was a difficult and challenging time for him. This stuffed animal you see on his bed is his favorite companion. And his mom brought it into hospital for him, and he indicated to his mom that his friend had a tear in his belly, I believe, and staff overheard this. And what you see on the left there is two surgeons, two doctors, who rolled in a table, created a makeshift surgery cart at the boy's bedside, and with his attention and supervision, performed surgery and sewed up this young man's companion, his favorite stuffed animal. This is mindful practice at work. This is seeing an opportunity to create a simple joy. This is seeing an opportunity to make a connection, to create ease for another. And in doing so, we no doubt create ease for ourselves. For his mother, she was immensely grateful, brought to tears for the awareness and care that had been offered. These are the moments that we so deeply miss, that we so evidently notice when they arise in this time. These are the moments that we need to create space for. Even in the most difficult times when we tend to our hearts, these spaces, these moments will present themselves. For all of us, regardless of our role, whether we are in direct care, front lines, behind the scenes, it does not matter. We all contribute to this interaction that we are in with a colleague, a family member, a client, a patient, a stranger. Our presence is felt by others, and that lands in the next interaction that they take with them. This is our spiritual health being shared in our work. Mark Nepo, as I mentioned earlier, in his writing from the Book of Awakening, I'm going to read you the whole passage now. He writes, "We begin so aware and grateful. The sun somehow hangs there in the sky. The little bird sings. The miracle of life just happens. Then we stub our toe. And in that moment of pain, the whole world is reduced to our poor little toe. Now, for a day or two, it is difficult to walk. With every step, we are reminded of our poor little toe. Our vigilance becomes, which defines our day? The pinch we feel in walking on a bruised toe, or the miracle still happening?" This is perhaps the greatest reality of our suffering of the last 2 years, that we all so deeply want to stay connected to the miracle around us, the miracle of human service, the miracle of the Spirit at work. We have not stubbed our toe, of course. We have faced immense pressures, immense suffering. But these practices of our presence, these practices of nurturing our spirit and being present for the spirits of others, does provide us with these small windows, these moments in which the miracle can arise. And so we can cry, we can pray, we can share, we can walk, we can read, we can write, we can listen, we can enter ceremony, create a ritual, and we breathe, not to make our suffering go away, but to honor it, and to honor ourselves, and to honor our spirits. I'm grateful for this opportunity to have been able to share with you, to be able to have been in your presence, though I can't see you in this webinar forum. I understand there's 100 or so of us here, and so it's a privilege to sit alongside you, to practice in our meditation of the compassionate visitor, and to share these feelings and thoughts with you today. I can remain for questions. I realize we've gone a little longer than we had hoped. As I mentioned, these slides will be made available. All of these resources here are links to existing resources. As I mentioned, I'll have a recording of this session's meditation posted here as well. A variety of research at the bottom for you. I wish you well in your day if it's time for you to take leave. And thank you again. Be well, take care. May you each find space to create peace for yourselves and those around you in the moments and the rest of your day.
Thank you for that presentation, Andrew. That was terrific. It was very eye-opening, certainly for myself, and I hope others were able to benefit from it. Not seeing any questions, but I'll just had a comment. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. Your delivery is appreciated, and they were very grateful. We did actually have a question. Do you have any suggestions for some good books on beginner's meditation, evidence-based?
Yeah, John Kabat-Zinn's books, all of them. John Kabat-Zinn has been developing mindfulness practices in hospitals and universities around America and the world for 50 years. Dr. Chris Germer and Dr. Kristen Neff, the co-creators of the Mindful Self-Compassion curriculum, both have a number of books. I can include some links to those. Actually, selfcompassion.org, which will be included on the slides, that leads us to compassion-based research, which is all rooted in Dr. Neff and Dr. Germer's work. Sharon Salzberg has beautiful books, beautiful meditations. Jack Kornfield Roshi Joan Halifax at Upaya Center in the United States. Of course, Thich Nhat Hanh, the late treasured meditation teacher and monk who passed away almost 3 weeks ago. Countless books and wisdom in his writings.
Terrific.
Yeah, and there are some other resources as well if you're interested in the psychology of mindfulness, its practice in acceptance and commitment therapy. Those are all searches that you can do. The two bottom sources on the final slide of the presentation that we'll send out in the days ahead, Harvard EDU and Berkeley EDU, both great resources for reading on the science of mindfulness and the greater good of mindfulness sciences from Berkeley, Greater Good Science Center. Brene Brown is another great writer, not necessarily to focus on meditation, but on the theories around being present for yourself, understanding our emotions, understanding our relationships with both ourselves and others. Also great reading there.
Excellent. Those are some terrific suggestions. We didn't have any more questions, but certainly a great deal of comments in the question box here, just saying thank you and how much everybody enjoyed the presentation. So again, yeah, it was very, very well done. And I know you had said this was sort of a bit of a test run, so I think you can call it a successful one for sure.
Well, thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. It's always a privilege to talk about how we can show up in the world, and it's difficult in these times, and I'm happy to share some of the things that I've learned.
Sounds good. And I apologize. I see there is some more items coming into the question box, but I think we'll just given the time right now, I think we will close here. And if you weren't able to get your question answered during the session, there is a way you can. I'm sorry, I don't know it offhand, but I believe there's a function where you can send it to AFM through the GoToWebinar platform, and I would certainly be happy to pass that along to Andrew via email and get an answer for you.
Yeah, for anyone who didn't get a question answered, or anyone who watches this session via recording at a later date, the first slide has my email address on it, and feel free to reach out in that way.
Great idea. That's I had forgotten about that, but yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So again, thank you very much for. Can we share the recordings for those who didn't register? Actually, the recording will be placed eventually onto the Shared Health, Mental Health and Wellness page. So we do have the upcoming recording rebroadcasts, which were in the communication, and then as I mentioned, then we'll have the broadcast posted to the Shared Health page once those rebroadcasts have finished up. So you can certainly look for them there. So with that, I will say thank you very much for the presentation today, and thank you to everybody who attended, and hope you have a good rest of your day.